Okay, so this is my pedal board. It's a rock board by Warwick. I'm just going to show you guys how I installed this. It's a custom Patchbay in the back. I've got a couple of XLR ports and a couple of TRS ports, and I even chuck like a USB port in just to charge my phone. So yeah, that's it. You can see it coming through there to the back. They're just through ports I've put in. It's just like a patch panel. Just on another note, this is just my case that I put it in. If you've got an old suitcase, you can use PVA glue to stick some isolation foam in, and it makes a pretty good pedalboard case. It works pretty well. I've taken it to gigs and stuff. It's not a flat case, but works pretty well. Anyway, okay, so this is the pedalboard. I've just sped this up a little bit so it doesn't drag on too long. So this is before I put the Patchbay in. I'm just showing like where I'm going to put it. These are the through connectors that I bought. There's 2 XLR ins, 1 XLR out, and then these through TRS cables. And it's a wall plate. I think it's called a Patchbay wall plate or something like that, and they have all different specifications and dimensions of them. And you can configure them however you like. So this was kind of, since I'm using this Sync 5.2 large pedal board, I realized I can fit in quite a lot of these ports. So it's just a way of tidying up your pedal board if you're going to have lots of inputs and outputs. It's not something that most guitarists would use because they probably just have one in for their guitar and one out. But since I've got a loop station and I have multiple instruments, I've got a few ins and like a few outs. So this is how I'm planning on mounting it over the top there, but it's going to require me to cut away at the frame there a little bit, and it's going to go through there. First things first, just removing all my pedals, remembering where I put them to get down to the just get the board. I didn't want to take the whole thing apart, so I kind of did it with some gear on, which is fine, but you just got to make sure when you do the cutting and stuff, you don't get too much like sawdust in there. So this is me just testing out sort of configurations a bit. One thing to keep in mind, these are quite long, these through ones. You can get shorter ones, but you have to solder them yourself. I got these ones because they're just easy, and you can plug the cord in the front, and you can just plug the other cords in the back. So first thing I did was, I kind of did like a bit of a custom job. I just had this rubber seal around the edge, which came with the pedal board, and I thought I'd just use that to keep that little IEC socket snugly in there. And if you want to see that, I did that in the video before. I showed how to install one of these like power sockets. And again, the reason I'm doing this is Warwick actually sell these Patchbay, I think they're called Mod 1, Mod 2 and Mod 3. They're these different customized Patchbay things that slot perfectly in that place, but none of them were the exact configuration that I was after. So I just figured, screw it, I'll just put one together myself. So I thought I'd chuck this video up just if anyone else is thinking the same thing. Yeah, so I've just marked out the bits I need to cut away. So I'm going to be cutting away all of this. Go and a couple of and just pretty simple way to do it is just using a big drill bit, drill a couple of holes, and then just use a hacksaw to just go around the edge. I did it pretty roughly because the Patchbay sort of fits over it and would cover up this sort of ugly hole that I've just cut, so it doesn't look great there. But as you can see, when I fit the plate over, it covers all that up. And then I've got these 8 ports, which I can customize. That's it there. I kept the rubber around the socket, so that holds that in. There we go. Okay, so that's the finished product. That's with all the pieces in. That's the way I wanted it. I actually had a spare cap to cover up the spare holes. I may change it in the future, but that's the back side of just having a look. So when you buy them, you want to make sure you get the right ones, depending on what you want. You sort of design it yourself. And it's a bit of a mess, all my cables in the back here. So I was thinking I bought this little DI that I was going to pop in, and that way I can get a clean balance signal out. So I was going to put the DI box in, and that will run straight to the main mix out Patchbay port, which I'm going to have on the back. So bought this little cheap DI. I think this DI was about $40, but it had semi-decent reviews, and it's just for this board. So I thought I'd give it a go. It's going to pass through to there and come out that port there. That's going to be my main XLR out. If you see my pedal board, I've got a little mixer on there, which I use as a pre-mix for the loop pedal, and then it actually comes back in as a post-mix, and it sends the signal out through the main mix. It's a bit fiddly, but it's kind of like a different loop station setup, which allows me to have multiple inputs. And okay, so to tidy up this pedal board, I bought some of this cheap coil wrap stuff, and that's it cleaned up there. You can see I've coiled up some of the cables, just did like a bit of cable management around there. You can buy this stuff on eBay. It's like $10 for like a bag, like I got, and you can just wrap it around the cables, and it just sort of tidies it up. I used masking tape to mark where all these cords have to come out, because I was trying to coil them up and remove all the slack. So I taped them to where I wanted them to be, where they were going to need to be for the different pedals, and then flipped it over and removed all the slack in those cables to try and get as little as possible. Then I got my soldering iron out, and I soldered up a couple of these cables. That's before I tied it up, and this is after. So it's like a little bit cleaner, a little bit tidier, easy to work with. And that is the final product. So you can see there I've got my mic in and my main mix out coming up the XLR port. And yeah, I hope this helps if anyone's thinking of building a Patchbay. It takes a little bit of work, but it's pretty straightforward, and you can customize it however you like. Cheers, hope it helped.